Thinking that we were due for a pullback, but we kind of slowly ground higher. If you look at some of the sector outperformers right now, it's interesting. Cyclical ones, but the ones that are important. The Nasdaq or the S&P is up about almost 2% for the week. So if you missed it, financials, technology, and industrials are all up about 2.5 to 3%. They're important because those
geopolitics. Okay, so fundamentals, basically, from my perspective, indicate lower. That's my view. Has been my view from yesterday and today. Obviously, with regards to the situation in Iraq and ISIS, the Israel-Palestine situation kicked off again. Just now, reports of a Israeli child being killed, and obviously Israel continues to massacre innocent women and children illegally, continues to commit war crimes, continues its policy of collective guilt. So if the husband obviously is a bad apple and obviously does unjust actions and kills innocent individuals, which nobody condones and everybody rejects, they decide to kill the whole family. That's just insanity. You hold that individual accountable, not the whole family. The family is innocent, children are innocent, women are innocent, and they shouldn't be involved in war at all. That's all. That's been the law of obviously fighting a war and respect. Human rights. I mean, human rights. Obviously, and the code of conduct as well. In any religion, you'll see that obviously women and children are always innocent and they should be respected. And obviously their sanctity of life should be respected as well. But obviously that's not the case with this apartheid and illegal regime, unfortunately. I mean, if the foundation is wrong, you unjustly occupy a nation, you rob its minerals and resources, and you rob the people of its land, and you ethnically cleanse the land, then it's a shame. That's exactly what the type of mentality you will have as well. So it's our job as international, obviously, individuals on the international stage, to condemn such activities and not to encourage them to do more. But let's just pray for peace, and let's hope obviously some sort of sanity is restored, and some sort of common sense obviously prevails, and obviously the killing stops and everybody tries to live in peace, whether it's Muslim, Jew, Christian, even non-Muslim. I mean, we have to learn to respect one another. We live in this age where obviously it's globalization and obviously all types of different races, cultures, etc. So we should learn to respect one another and obviously coincide. Okay, folks, so back to the market. So geopolitics, ISIS, I mean, I feel really sad for that individual whose head was obviously taken off by imbeciles, ignorance, morons, distorted, twisted, demented individuals. What can I say? There's no way I can condemn such activities any further. You know, I mean, these people are sick in the head. And really, they're the people that should be flattened. Okay, they're the people that should be eradicated. If you want to drop bombs, then obviously drop it on these people, but only the individuals that are guilty, not the innocent women and children. Okay, so basically that's the situation that we have. So ISIS needs to be taken out, needs to be wiped out. Okay, it needs to be, literally, what can I say, exterminated. Okay, so obviously that's the situation that we feel because our security is threatened, etc. So that's not a good situation that we're in. Okay, so from a geopolitical standpoint of view, that's obviously risk off. Then we have a situation with Hamas, Israel, risk off. Russia, Ukraine obviously escalated today, with Russians forcing their way through the border, and obviously having to wait for a few days now with regards to seeking authorization. They've obviously had enough, and they've decided to drive through the border. Okay, so that's a situation that obviously causes a risk off scenario. Okay, so all these, if you add all these events together, then if you add in the situation Argentina, just news out now on Reuters and yesterday as well, with regards to them obviously being anti-US, with regards to the law that was passed with regards to the judge. So it's not good. Okay, so they obviously with regards to defaulting and so on and so forth, and obviously we've had the default in Argentina, and that hurts emerging markets as well. So that's the situation that we find ourselves in. Okay, so all those situations added together obviously is a risk-off scenario. We also have Pakistan situation out of control. Where else can I start? I mean, geopolitics is all over the globe now. Okay, adding the fact that you've had weaker economic data, that's another scenario from a European perspective. Okay, and obviously disinflation there as well. Or deflation, should I say, there as well. So that's another topic that I can discuss upon. But from my perspective, US markets. Okay, so Miss Yellen, post FOMC minutes, etc., etc. Everybody was buying the market in anticipation of an extremely dovish Yellen. Okay, that obviously didn't transpire. The markets moved were disappointed initially. As you can see, this is a chart of the S&P 500. This is the latest chart that I've drawn, and I'm expecting this H&S formation to play out, provided the right shoulder remains below the 75% fib, and we certainly move lower. So basically, initially, obviously, we did get the sell-off, and until 4 o'clock, and then the market started to move in the opposite direction. Now, more than likely, I mean, I can attribute that to Yellen's algos, I can attribute that to a technical trend line as support level, etc., etc., etc. But from my perspective, the market is obviously trying its best to hinge on any dovish commentary, etc., etc., and certainly wants to attempt to push the markets higher, especially on a Friday. But with regards to the geopolitical standoff in Russia, okay, and the Ukraine situation, I think we are, according, this is the headline here, Ukraine accuses Russia of invasion after aid convoy crosses border. Declared that Russia had launched a direct invasion of its territory after Moscow sent a convoy of trucks across the border. NATO called it a blatant breach of Russia's international commitments and said Russia had been using artillery. So what does that mean? The outcome of that obviously is more sanctions. More sanctions, obviously geopolitical standoff escalates. There's no signs of de-escalation, even though there's talks going on next week. That's not going. That's not going to achieve anything now. That's all jeopardized. So again, escalation of geopolitics. Okay, so they're all factors that will obviously help the dollar. Post FOMC minutes, Miss Yellen wasn't as dovish as everybody expected, even though everybody's been buying the dip or the bulls have been short squeezing the hell out of the bears. Okay, and now it's time for the bears to fight back with a vengeance. Okay, so that's basically the situation. So if you have those two factors together from a fundamental perspective, I don't care any chart. Even if it's a breakout, fake out, you call it what you want. Okay, TA guys out there, I trade number one based on intermarket analysis, and I also trade. My emphasis is more towards fundamentals because that's basically what my economics degree taught me, and that's what I will always emphasize. So remember, fundamentals will always trump technicals, and that's why one of the reasons why they call the fundamental chaps, one of the people in the fundamental camp call the people in the technical camp witches. Okay. And voodoo dolls. Okay, so you can't just base it based on previous historical price action and use a few MACDs and moving MAs and try to buttress or propagate your view on the markets. Okay, because what you're seeing there is just price action. Okay, and you can superimpose your belief and opinion, etc. Whatever you want. A double top could hold or it could break through. Okay, how do you confirm that? There's no MACD or RSI MA that will confirm that, because they don't understand what's happening with regards to all those individuals buying. You need to understand the underlying motive and the reason for that. And the underlying motive and the reason for that obviously is fundamentals, and fundamentals will dictate. So right now you have Miss Yellen that was left dovish as expected. You have geopolitical situation and standoff, as we know, with regards to Russia and Ukraine, and obviously Israel, Hamas, ISIS, etc. All those scenarios certainly are not an environment where you want to be investing in. Okay, because given the uncertainty surrounding that. Okay, so hence the reason why, given the markets had quite a stellar rally, these are all reasons for somebody or an individual to certainly start taking profits as well. Okay, so that's basically where we are from that perspective. Now let's have a look at it technically. Technically, obviously S&P 500 is double top resistance, and the individual or index I tend to observe and corroborate the strength or weakness is the Russell. Russell obviously is coming into resistance as a hanging man candle on a daily chart. So that's basically where we are from that perspective. Obviously we're into that resistance. We've closed the gap, certainly looking to move higher at the moment, but for now this is the resistance level that we have. So if not that level, then the level slightly above 87.5, and certainly is into a resistance level, upper channel horizontal resistance. So that's certainly indicating risk off. Okay, so the next indices that we can observe is the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq obviously is key, certainly has propelled higher. So from a technical perspective, you'd say yes, that's going to be a move higher. Now there is a report with regards to Apple, because that's one of the key components of the Nasdaq, about the potential for Apple to delay its iPhone 6 due to component shortages. Okay, so that's going to be interesting. So if you look at your Reuters article, Apple iPhone 6 screen sag leaves supply chain scrambling. Suppliers to Apple are scrambling to get enough screens ready for the new iPhone 6, and they need to redesign a key component disrupted panel production ahead of the next month's expected launch. Okay, that's not exactly good for the stock. So given the fact that Apple obviously is one of the key drivers for the US and Nasdaq, okay, then obviously that's going to be risk off from that perspective. Okay, so alone, looking at this chart alone, an individual will say, yes, this is a breakout, this is a bullish chart, one should buy. Okay, just pause right there. Let's just confirm that movement with obviously the two indices that I tend to observe. The semicons, okay, the semicons are into 75% fib resistance, so we're into a doji candle, indicating risk off. Okay, a semicon, the biotech's horizontal resistance holding, indicating risk off. Okay, so them two indexes are into resistance, so what do you think will happen to the Nasdaq? Risk off also. Okay, adding the fact that you've got bearish fundamentals, which I've already explained from the outset of this video, and down we go. Okay, one important factor as well here is the DAX. The DAX and the Nasdaq have a relationship. Okay, mainly because of the components within the index. Okay, so very heavily technology, innovation led, etc., and obviously sensitive to disposable income. So German DAX has obviously held that gap fill resistance and has sold off subsequently. Obviously, Russian situation adding to that. Even though, also another interesting thing as well is that German data was strong yesterday, whilst the rest of the European periphery was weak, and also the Bundesbank has also recently stated that it was okay. It was okay for the ECB to go ahead with negative deposit rates, but they weren't very optimistic on QE. So that itself, given the fact that German data has come out slightly better than expected, and that confirms their or strengthens their argument of no QE. No QE with Russian sanctions and deflation and weak growth obviously cannot propel the DAX higher. Okay, that's the reason why I maintain my bearish view on that. Okay, so given the fact that we've held gap fill resistance, there's no real reason now for the DAX to sort of propel higher. If anything, it needs to propel lower because of the unfilled gap below at 9,000. Down we go. Okay, that's basically my interpretation there. Right. Okay, going back, so that's that understanding. So with regards to the S&P, also you look at the FTSE, and the FTSE obviously is into diagonal trendline resistance and holding. So therefore, that will confirm the weakness on the S&P 500. Just into market analysis. Now, also adding the fact that the DAX has held gap fill resistance, down we go. Now, let's have a look at the Dow and the transportation. So Dow transportation average obviously back into that double top, near the double top resistance. Obviously, the H&S formation has failed, so we obviously ignore that for now. But we are into the double top resistance, so again indicates resistance. With regards to the Dow also. Excuse me. Okay, into resistance. Obviously, yes, it has exceeded the 75%, so we certainly give respect and homage to that movement. Okay, but in the interim, as into resistance, so you have horizontal resistance here. So therefore, we are looking for the markets to move lower. Okay, and that's basically where we are. So horizontal resistance, and looking for a certain move now lower, and also, like I stated, this move higher here was all in anticipation of one de-escalation Russia-Ukraine, and obviously the catalyst obviously being Mr. Yellen being super dovish, and obviously them two both have been jeopardized today. So if those two have been jeopardized, where do you think the market's going? Yes, it's going south. Okay, so that's basically my argument. Okay, and that's how I trade using intermarket analysis. If you look at your risk FX, that also confirms weakness because obviously Aussie and Kiwi are reversed in the opposite direction. Chinese data was relatively weak this week as well, so that's certainly not supporting the argument there. So risk FX certainly is, and also given the fact that euro obviously has plummeted given the Russia-Ukraine standoff. So risk FX certainly indicating weakness. With regards to the commodities, also yes, that's certainly indicating weakness. Well, weakness in a sense that yes, copper is into resistance. It has had a stellar move higher. That's based on stronger jobs data out of the US predominantly, but Chinese data remains weak, so it's into resistance. Gold obviously has gone lower, but is into support now given the Ukraine standoff. So and also oil is into support as well. So oil and gold obviously are into support and potentially going higher equals risk off. So that's not exactly bullish for equity markets. And copper is into resistance. So again, certainly can't see any argument there. And with regards to the bond market, as we all know, the situation post Yellen, it's certainly not looking good for the equity market. So that's where we stand, folks. Okay, but especially with regards to Miss Yellen not being as dovish as we all expected, and given the fact that the market has factored in or baked in Miss Yellen being super ultra dovish. Okay, and that's not the situation anymore. Okay, folks. So I think that's a wrap. My call still remains bearish on the US markets, and we'll see whether or not Miss Yellen's algos allow that to work out, given the fact that it's a weekend, and that's obviously we're famous and we all know exactly what she's up to on the weekend with regards to algos. Either way, I trade what I see, not what I think, or not what happens in the past, because the past is not always an indicative of the future events, okay, or an example of future events. So that's it, folks. So risk on, risk off, wax on, wax off. Goodbye now.